Buddham Saranam Gacchami Dhammam Saranam Gacchami Sangham Saranam Gacchami. I put my face into the Buddha. I put my face into the Dharma. I put my face into the Sangha. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Good evening. We'd like to chant the sutra tonight, which is very famous sutra. It's named Prajna Paramita Heart Sutra. Heart is a very important part in our body. So Heart Sutra is a very essential and very important and very profound sutra in whole Buddhism. Many Buddhists chant this sutra every morning and evening in China and Japan. So, let's chant this sutra. It is not so long, so chant this sutra clearly. This is a Chinese sound pronunciation and the Chinese translation by the famous translator and scholar Shen Shun. It's very difficult to pronounce his name. He was a priest, Chinese priest, went to India and took many sutras from India and translated into Chinese. He was a man from just 600 to 664. He lived 64 years life. He was one of the very famous scholar and translator in Chinese Buddhism. All Zen people who belongs to the Zen group or Zen center used to chant this sutra every morning and evening. I think some of you knows this sutra very well. Chant like this. That big alphabet character. Please have this sutra. We shall be chanting this sutra. Makahanya haramita shinyo. Next, kanji zai bo sa gyo jin hanya harami sai ku yagu shari shi shiki hu i ko ko hu i shiki shiki zaku ze ko ko saku ze shiki jo song yo shiki nyaku gu nyo ze sha li shi ze shao ho ku so hu shao hu me zu hu ku hu jo hu zo hu gen ze ko gu ju mo shi ge mo ju so nyo shi ge mo gen ni bi ze shi ni mo shi ge sha ko mi sa gu ho mo gen kai nai shi mo i shi ge kai mo miao nya go mo miao jin nai shi mo ro shi ya go mo ro shi jin mo ko shu me gu do mo chi ya go mo ta go i mo sha ta go go bo dai sa ta ye ha nya ha ra mi ta ko shi mo ge mo ge go mo ku on the side and mo so ku gyo ne han san ze sha bu zu e han ya ha ra mi ta ko ta gu an gu ta ra sam ya gu sam bo dai ko chi han ya ha ra mi ta ze dai jin shu ze dai myo shu ze mu jo shu ze mu to shu no jo i sai gu shin je so gyate bodhi soaka hanya shinyo. Hey, thank you. When you at home and have time, will you chant it any time, morning or evening? This is very meaningful and very deep, profound prana paramita, wisdom, true wisdom in it. So your mind will be pacified. So I like to talk a little bit, explanation. And if you have a question, please give me after. This prana paramita itself is wisdom, transcendental knowledge or insight of the Buddha. It is non-discriminating wisdom. We have many, many different explanations. It is non-dualistic wisdom, wisdom of equality, or wisdom of crossing from this shore of birth and death to the other shore of nirvana or enlightenment. So, when you chant it, this sutra, only gyate, gyate, hara, gyate. Now, this is a mantra, we say. It is a very short spell. But it has a very strong power in it, mystical power. You don't need to understand it, but you can, cross the distance between this human shore to the other shore of the Buddha or Bodhisattva. You can, instantly cross the river. So it is powerful. So I like to explain. Good evening. Great prajna paramita Hridaya, that is heart, heart sutra. Hridaya Sutra. Sutra is all, writing of the Buddha's expounding or teaching. Avalokiteshvara, he is a bodhisattva. Bodhisattva means enlightened person. Bodhi is enlightenment. Sattva is a being. We are called Baba Sattva. Baba is all existence, existing, or a sentient being. That is Baba Sattva. Not enlightened yet. So, the Avalokiteshvara is a very famous bodhisattva. We have many bodhisattvas. The personalized the personalized being of the Buddha's teaching. For instance, compassion, wisdom, meditation, and upaya. We have many the teaching of the Buddha. Each teaching, Buddha personalized it. So that is Bodhisattva. Avalokite, that is look down. Avalokite. Ishvara, put the I before S. Ishvara, which means the sovereign, which is, the, how to say, Almighty, or in other words, freely. This Bodhisattva can look down the all people freely, which means he can see all the human mental state, the freely. Most of people have sufferings, anxieties, all kind of fears. This is the human mind because they have a strong attachment. Attachment is the mother of the suffering. This attachment comes from desire. This desire comes from ignorance. So ignorance is, most the basic cause of the suffering. When you have wisdom and understand everything correctly, so you have no more selfish desire. When you have no selfish desire, you have no attachment, greed. So you have no more suffering, anxiety, or fears. So this Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, looking over or looking down the all people's mental state, when they have some troublesome, they appear just in front of them. And if you chant my name, I can remove your all troublesome right away. He said so. Anyway, this Bodhisattva is different, how to say, that's transformation of the Buddha. So he has very kind compassion and wisdom in his mind. This Bodhisattva, the practice deep prajna paramita. Prajna paramita is a wisdom, but we need to practice it. Practice means we think of it and we conduct of it in our, the deed, action, and also, we understand it clearly, and we explain it to others. We have two kinds of deed: mental deed, verbal deed, and physical deed. Deed, most of people understand deed is only physical action, conduct. It is not so. We have three kinds of deed or actions: mental action, and physical action, and verbal action. practice in those three actions. Prajnaparamita. When perceive five skandhas, all empty. Skandha is a new word. That is aggregate. Now this flower is skandha, skandha in Sanskrit. Skandha is collected, how to say, how to say, aggregate, aggregate, or a pile. This is effect. Now this effect has causes, many smaller parts. Then we can see it. For instance, this house constructed or constituted by a smaller part, then make up a bigger totality. That is called the house. Everything is just like that. Our body is also skandha. We have a smaller part, head, breast, and abdomen, or foot, feet, hands, are all smaller parts. Those, the part combines, or that constitute into the whole thing. That is thing, being. All things are like this. That is the skandha. I have a skandha, picture of skandha here. I show you later. When this bodhisattva perceives five skandha, we have five body, five part of bodies. Those are five skandhas combines or build up our whole body, mind and matter, and body and mind. All are empty. Then they leave every sufferings, every suffering. The Shariputra form, matter and form is we call rupa in Sanskrit. Matter and form. This is rupa, or matter. Sometimes we call it a form. Form is not different from empty because, that I explained to you many times in my past lecture. This paper is it has no matter, has no name, and no characteristics, and no actions, no values. All the characteristics or self-existences belongs to human side. Everything has no characteristics by itself, no substance, no characteristics, no appearances, no forms, no activities, and no values. All are human judgment. I told you many times. Therefore, form is not different from emptiness. Emptiness means, no self-existences. All existences has no its own attribute, or self-existence, or self-nature, self-substance, self-appearances, self-value. I told you many times, but people, human mind has a very strong realistic idea. Everything has its own character, its own form, its own matter, its own substance, characteristics, actions, everything. But that is nonsense. It is called realism. But it is not true. That is human ignorance, stupidity, we say. So, that the form is not different from emptiness. And emptiness is not different from form. This is a little different and difficult, for the people. Human mind is very realistic and dualistic, egocentric. Therefore, people, everything exists by itself without, knower, like this. It is not true. Knower and known are the same thing. There is nothing which exists by itself without a knower. Knower and known are relative existence. And not only relative, it is depend on each other. Knower depend on known depend on knower. Knower and known are, that's inseparable, and not one, not separated. This is a very difficult point for the dualistic people and realistic mind. Anyway, I explained all through briefly. So the form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. Okay, please ask me later. Okay, why it is so? Then the sensation, form, sensation, conception, volition, consciousness, that is called 5 aggregate. Each of them are piled, aggregate. So not only form, that the sensation itself is empty. Emptiness is sensation. And conception is also, conception is only illusion. It is not real, not unreal. It is beyond human grasping. So we call it empty. This emptiness is called, conception or understanding. And volition is a judgment or inference. When we know something, we, that have, judgment or inference in our subconsciousness. We compare with, the memory. Then we obtain some decision. That is volition, Inference or judgment we call. That is volition. And consciousness is awareness, knowing. So awareness is only conceptual awareness. People cannot aware of this, cannot be aware of this flower itself. Only each of us make a picture, mental picture in our mind. Then we cognize this is that's the concept of this flower. So this cognition of our concept, that is knowledge, that is awareness. Therefore, all awareness or knowledges are just, how to say, it's an imitation, imitation of the things or the object, not, itself. Then, all like this, like form. Shariputra, this everything, original character, original character. The original character is self-nature or self-substance. Everything, all this everything has no self-character or self-substances. All he does is, character is a human judgment. Beauty of this flower is a human judgment. This flower is beyond beautiful and ugly. People judge it and feel it. Oh, this is a pretty flower. This is a very strange flower, like snake. Like that is human judgment. A flower does not know that. Flower has no such idea, no such characteristics. People put own idea, own feeling to the flower. That is, that's why flower itself is just empty. But the people, it's very, very difficult to switch, realistic idea to the, conditional or relativities idea. Because people have a very strong habitual, tendency that everything has own nature, own characteristics. That is very strong habit, habitual power. That's why it is very difficult. The not born, everything is not born, not originated, and not annihilated. And I think that ask me why it is annihilated, not annihilated, and not tainted, not colored, not defiled. Taint, is a defilement, and not pure, not increase, quantity or quality, and not decrease, and therefore, in emptiness, no form, no sensation, no conception, volition, consciousness, awareness. And no eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind. The eye is, people, ignorant people or stupid people always understand like this. I can see the flower, but I cannot see the flower. I has no mind. It is only matter. No mind in our eyes. You know that. So, it cannot be subject. eye is like a camera, the mechanism. All are matter and form. No, there is no mind in eyes. No? But there is only, very sensitive point that is called the nerve. No? Nerve itself is a matter. Okay? But when that the light stimulate this nerve start to stimulated, and the little start a motion. Everything is like this. This flower, the receive some sunlight. It grows little by little. Everything is, that has a life. So, it's a matter, but some matter are very sensitive. Therefore, it changes in a certain condition. When it receives the water and the heat and the light and some the fertilizer and air pressure, then it grows and it decays. Depend on the circumstances. So, just our human eye nerve, start some, the stimulation. This stimulation become a cause of a perception. Here, sensation. Sensation. And this sensation become a cause of conception. And become a volition, cause of volition. And become a cause of awareness, or consciousness, or consciousness, like that. So, no eyes, no ears. Eye does not exist by itself until eye, is helping become the cause of sensation of, color, sensation of color or light. It is not called eyes. When we have eyes, but some eyes are in, how to say, it's a, just like a blind, cannot see anything. When some, some, nerve system is broken, eye cannot see. Eye is not usable. And if, that the eye is complete and the nerve system is good, but some, when we have no memory in our, alaya consciousness, memory consciousness, we know nothing. When we have no memory, we know nothing. When we see anything, we know nothing. Memory is so important. So all our, the functions, mental function and physical function are the same thing, not, different. So when we have one thing, one, function is broken or missing, the whole, the system doesn't work. So there is no eye, people, like that people think. There is no ear. No? Ear does not exist by itself. Eye does not exist by itself. And tongue, body, mind are the same. And no color. Color does not exist by itself. No? Without eyes, without human, mental functioning or physical functioning. Sound, smell, taste, touch. All this object is the object of our cognition. We have 5 senses, the physical, the organs: eye, ears, nose, tongue, and body. We have a touch. We have a sense, the sense of eyes, sense of ear, sense of nose, sense of tongue, sense of body. Touch, we call. But this object is, we have a mind in our somewhere. So object of our cognition, mind. So object itself is not independent, beings. No eyes, no world of eyes. World of eyes is, the sense of eyes. Not the sense of eyes, is the rhythm of eyes. Maybe rhythm of color, rhythm of light, like this. Light cannot exist by itself without darkness. Darkness and light are same thing. When there is no darkness, there is no light. When there is no darkness, there is no light. When there is no light, there is no darkness. They are just like a front and back of one thing. I have a paper. This is the front. This is the back. Just like there is no paper without a back or a front. Just like that. Okay, then no eyes, no until they come to also no world of consciousness, no ignorance, also no ignorance annihilation, until we come to no old age, death. Old age, death are not an actual being. It is just illusion. Also, no old age. Okay, this is only logic. Okay, and no death. If we say we negate something, people just hear the words. So they think, oh, if there is no death, then it must, no death must be, But it is only, the logical play. And no suffering, cause of suffering, nirvana, path, middle path. Nirvana and path is concept. When people understand nirvana and enlightenment, that is only concept of nirvana. True nirvana is unknowable. You cannot attain to the nirvana with your awareness. There is no nirvana in our awareness. So nirvana is everywhere. You are in the nirvana from the beginning. You cannot get out from nirvana. Therefore, you cannot get in to the nirvana. Nirvana is everywhere. This is nirvana. This is nirvana. This is nirvana, everything. This air is nirvana. Okay? This sunlight is nirvana. Everything is nirvana. My body is nirvana. From the tip of my finger to the my foot finger. No? From the head, the top of the head to the the beneath of my to the foot. No? So no wisdom, also no attainment to enlightenment. And because of no attainment is nothing. Some stupid people, who have a desire, so they need some attainment and gaining, and some kind of possession. But it is impossible. You cannot possess anything from the beginning. Okay, then this is Bodhisattva. Excuse me. Bodhisattva, depend on prajna paramita because mind no obstacles. Only gaining and losing are human obstacles, illusion. Because of no obstacles, no illusion, no exists fear. No exists fear, happiness too. Go beyond all top-based views. Attain nirvana. Yeah. When we have no more, that's inverted point of view, upside down point of view, So that is nirvana. That is nirvana. Past, present, and future, every Buddha depend on the prajna paramita, therefore attains supreme perfect enlightenment. All Buddhas attain to nirvana because they understand that nirvana is everywhere. We cannot get out from nirvana. No one can get out from nirvana. That is, equal nirvana, not only personal nirvana. Buddha's nirvana is universal nirvana, equal nirvana. Flowers, all insects, and creatures, living beings, and not only living beings. All just that's matter, like a form, and rock, and dirt. Everything is in nirvana. That is equal enlightenment, equal nirvana. So, therefore, I know prajna paramita is a holy mantra. Mantra is a very short word, very short word. Sometimes it's long, but usually it's a very simple verse, spell. But it has a very profound meaning in it. So when people chant it, their desires, wishes, that will be fulfilled. That's why in India they chanted the mantra. No? I think you know in the Western world, not Western, that's Arabian Night. It has a mantra. You know? Some kind of something sesame, open sesame, like that. That is the mantra, kind of mantra. In India, they have very many mantras using in their actual life. When they they want to catch the poison snake, they chant a mantra first. They, grasp, catch the snake. So it doesn't bother, people. Therefore, I know Prajnaparamita is a holy mantra, the great untainted mantra, the supreme mantra, the incomparable, incomparable mantra, incapable of assuaging all suffering. This is the power of mantra, assuaging and pacify, or how to say, erasing the all human suffering. The true, it is true, no false. Therefore, he proclaimed Prajnaparamita mantra and proclaimed mantra says, Gyate, Gyate, Hara Gyate, Haraso Gyate, Bodhi Svaha. So Gyate is gone. Gata is go. Gyate is a past of participle form. Gone. Gone, gone. Hara Gyate. Hara is once more, once again, gone. And haraso is once more, moreover, gone. What does it mean? We negate once. Negate, negation. And go over, that's, we are, how to say, go over one, concrete, the standpoint. Then, we go over, and then, that people, attach to the, to the, idea of go over, crossing. Then they move this fixed idea, then go beyond. But the people are, human mind is always greedy and sticky. They need some, fixed standpoint. Then they wish to stay there, and once more go over, 4 times. Then no more standpoint. Then, the body is there. Body is enlightenment. Enlightenment is there. And the svaha is, together with the ending of mantra is used to be, a svaha. It has a word of svaha, is together with all people, not myself only. We must go with other people together, together. That is a svaha. Okay? Okay, any question, please? I like to explain a little more about scandal. When we understand something, we have five organs. The eyes, ears, the nose, tongue, and the body. Then the eyes is just matter and form. Therefore, eye cannot see anything. Ear cannot hear any sound. The nose cannot smell anything. Tongue cannot taste any taste. The body cannot feel any, the soft, warm, and hard like this. All mental functions are necessary. Each of them is not independent existence. They are helping each other. So this is the Vedana. That is stimulation. In this translation, it is a sensation. The samya, that is perception. In this, the translation is conception. The next is volition, is the samskara. That is Sanskrit term. That is volition, but in my translation is inference or judgment. Vijnana, that is consciousness. In this translation, that is combat, cognition, awareness. This, is a process of our mental function. But first, one is matter, not mind. All other called mind. So, matter and mind are, same. Electricity is matter or mind or energy or vitality. We have in our body we have vitality. Is that the matter or mind? People discriminate them, into two. That is human bad habit. We cannot discriminate, matter and mind into two. Just like Einstein said, matter and mind are, he said, matter and mind arise together or not at all, he said. The matter does not exist by itself without mind. Mind does not exist by itself without, matter or body. So body and mind are helping each other, depend on each other. You know, neither can exist by itself alone. But the people, human mind are very, very realistic. Everything exists by itself. That is very common, the stupid idea. Any questions so far? Any questions? No. In board. Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Nirvana is here already.
Yeah.
No beginning, no ending.
Yes, sir.
And so it is my habit that creates my ignorance, so
Yeah.
I cannot make the choice of
Yeah.
being in it.
That's right. Do you have ignorance?
Yes.
That is big, illusion. Do you know what the ignorance is?
Ah.
It is only concept. Concept of ignorance is not ignorance.
So ignorance is not real. Then awareness is not real.
Yeah. Do you have any awareness? Awareness?
If I don't have ignorance, I don't have awareness.
Do you have any awareness?
I think I do.
Yes. That is a concept of awareness, not awareness itself. So, that ignorance is also, and illusion is also. You cannot possess any illusion. Do you have a dream?
I think I do.
Yeah, that is your memory. Already dream is gone. You cannot possess illusion, a memory. No, excuse me. That, dream. Dream is not real, not unreal. When you understand the dream, that is the concept of dream, not the dream itself. Okay, we have a flower here, very pretty one. Do you know this flower? No. No?
I think I know.
Yeah. That you are knowing of this flower, knowing, awareness, that is concept of flower. Everybody has their own concept of this flower. That concept of each of you is not flower. When you go home, but the flower is still here. You cannot possess it. So you cannot understand it. No. Only you can produce your own image of flower, mental picture of flower, concept of flower, But each of your flower, concept must be different. You are seeing this flower this side, he is looking at this flower from this side. Shape must be different, the color must be different. It is not the same flower, no. Understanding is like this. Understanding must be quite different by the people, each, personal. So there is no common, equal or identical understanding, no. Even feeling is so. Today is a very nice day, some people say. Yes, it is nice, but feeling must be quite different. I don't know any others, your feeling. You don't know my feeling. Just like that, understanding is same thing. Okay? Understanding belongs to each person's, depend on their judgment. No? Judgment comes from past experiences, memories. Our memory must be different by each person have a different memories, different experiences. Therefore, each person has a different judgment. Therefore, each person has a different, that understanding and the feeling too. Yeah. Sometimes we say, I'm so happy, I'm so happy. Yeah, I think, I feel the same happiness. When you are happy, I feel very happy too. But, the happiness are quite different happiness. Suffering is also. There is only one person who feel happy. So suffering is also. Understanding is also. Yes, we imagine others. We suppose others, feeling or understanding. That is a supposition. Not only true understanding. But understanding itself is like an illusion, like a dream. Not a real understanding. No one can have true understanding, real understanding, permanent understanding. No. It is just like a dream. No. So, when we understand the soul, that everything is like this. So we have no attachment. We have no concrete, idea or feeling. Idea and feeling are just temporarily happening, just like a cloud. That I see the black cloud in the sky, but the cloud has no color. Only by the sunlight, it become black, white, and purple, and that's pink. Just like when we have a cup, cup is called the water cup. But when we put milk in it, we call it a milk cup. When we put some alcohol, it is alcohol cup. So it changes name and usage, characters, and characteristics, everything. All beings in the whole universe have no self-nature. Flower has no color, no form. But people, very difficult to understand it. Because they have a very strong, karmic tendency, habitual, thinking. Okay, any question, please? We have still a lot of time.
I still want to know
Yes, sir.
what I can do. Like the flower, I have no substance, no character.
Yeah.
Only something called my mind that is
Yes, sir.
So if some way I can switch off the perception,
Yeah.
how can I do that?
Yeah, switch off to how? How to switch off?
So there is no awareness, no judgment, no believing, no
Yeah.
attachment.
Yeah. No affirmation, no negation,
Yeah.
like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that is very clever, you know. You know, because you know all human understanding are, you know, the how say how say the absurd, you know, inconsistent. Therefore, uh, you switch, or you know that you know, fix the point of view, and finally you have no point of view. That is enlightenment. If you know something, you know, that is a barrier, that is a defilement, you know, that is a hitter, you know. So you are not free. Yes, you know, when your mind is free, no, no attachment, no standpoint, no affirmation, no negation. At that time, you are quite free. That is a nirvana. That is enlightenment. Yeah. At that time, you should know that, you know, understanding is illusion. Yeah. All human understanding are illusion.
How do we stop?
Stop? You don't need to stop. Illusion is, no one can possess, you know, that's a illusion. Illusion is not real. Can you possess a dream? Yeah, you cannot possess a dream. Dream is like an illusion. It is not real. It is not unreal. Some people, you know, say that, you know, always misunderstand. If we are the, you know, your friend says, it is not true, then it must be false, you know. That is dualism. So you must get out from a dualistic idea, all kind of, you know, idea, affirmative idea, negative idea, positive idea, any kind of idea. Idea is like an illusion. Idea is like a flower has, you know, yellow, you know, color. People understand it has a color. People has an idea or a feeling. Just like that, same thing. Idea does not belong to the man. Can you possess the idea? No. Idea itself, it does not belong to you, or you know, idea and you are different things. You cannot possess your idea. Idea is changing all the time. You yourself is changing all the time, you know, always. So both are quite a different thing, and also not, you know, inseparable. This is very difficult point, you know, for the people, human, you know, understanding. Understanding, most of human beings, you know, understand, and understanding is real, you know, It is valuable. It is actual things. Human, real behavior. But it is not so. Understanding is just like a dreaming. That's all. I am seeing, yes, and understand this is, that flower, psalm, chrysanthemum. Just like I dreamed, last night in my bed. Same thing. Dream and actual life, happening in our life are no different. If there is no self, you have no self. Do you have a self in you or in your body? If you have a self, you like a self. You love self. So this is my idea. I think so, But your thinking and your feeling does not belong to nobody, because you have no self in your body. Self is a big illusion. Self is concept. Buddha said, that everything has no self. Your body is changing all the time, very rapidly. Body is not yours. Self, your ego possessing your body or your mind, that is very, there is no such idea in Buddhism. There was, such idea in the Hinduism, At the Buddha's time, there was many Hinduism, Mimamsa, Vedanta, and Sankhya, Vaiseshika, Nyaya, those are Hinduism. All of them thought the self, Atman. Atman exists in our body. That Atman is, that universal existence. But the Buddha negated all of them. There is no self. Just like this is, the aggregate. This flower is aggregate, pile, aggregate, skanda. There is no flower in this flower. Do you know why? If there is a flower in this flower, that we have two flowers in one thing. It is, how to say, incorrect. Everything is, is a pile. We should understand that. Otherwise, Buddhism is we cannot understand, suchness or the true aspect of all beings. Buddha taught us that to find out true aspect, true nature of all beings, is the true nature? Not like people think or understand. True nature is always is such. You know, that is beyond human understanding. If people understand, it is such. It is not the such anymore. If you understand this is flower, this is not flower anymore. It is very difficult. I think you know that this kind of, that's wisdom. It is not knowledge. It is wisdom. When you understand this, where this flower come from, if you know that, you can understand this kind of theory, or this kind of how to say, that's the doctrine or theory, or this kind of truth. I always say there is no truth in Buddhism, because the truth is a big affirmative concept. If we affirm something, we need same degrees of negative standpoint. Otherwise, we cannot affirm anything. Because affirmation and negation are the same, one standpoint, same standpoint. If we have, we affirm something without negate, that is big dogmatism. But the people cannot do that. Most of human mind are dualistic and realistic. Therefore, everything exists by itself. Exists by itself. Like that's truth exists by itself. But that is a very stupid idea. Whose truth is that? When we do not cognize or acknowledge that is truth, there is no truth. Truth does not exist by itself. But most of people understand truth exists by itself. Newton's gravitation theory, that is truth. No. That is a big misunderstanding. There is in the certain places, that the gravity or gravitation is a conditional happening. Therefore, there is, that's between from here to moon. On the way, there is no gravities of the moon and the earth. So gravity is like this. All matter have pulling each other. That's why there is a gravity. But it is that's when something goes very rapid speed, and the speed power of speed is bigger than pulling power. Pulling power erased, no more work. So that we can, that we have on the Earth we have a very strong gravity, but we have more strong, rocket power. So rocket go up to the sky. gravity is, erasable. Everything are just relationship or relativities. So there is no definite, concrete things anywhere. Like this. Everything like this. Therefore, this, that's Prajnaparamita Sutra is very, good for people. That we have, Mahaprajnaparamita Sutra, 600 fossils, volumes. This is only in the chapter 3, very few lines in chapter 3. I have a part of English translation of Prajnaparamita Sutra by Kanze, Kanze, of an English scholar. He translated, that's about 10 years ago. But still, it is very big, volumes of the sutra. And they translated on the partly. This is especially very, very powerful and meaningful, part in the Prajnaparamita. Okay, please, any question? Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned before something about we all have different kinds of karmic thoughts and things that we kind of habitually do. How does the Buddhist religion teach its disciples to deal with clearing that out in their lives?
Clear what?
Clearing out the karmic patterns of how we deal with it?
You don't need to clearing up karma. Karma is like an illusion. Okay? It is not real. It is a big illusion. So, that's when we have, the ignorance, and the ignorance, ignorance produce, become a cause of passion, selfish, selfish desire. We call passion. When we have passion, we have strong attachment to the objective thing. At that time, we feel some, many different kind of illusion. Suffering is kind of illusion, and anxiety, fear, or suspicion, all are, illusion. So, illusion, that is a karma. So, illusion is not actual beings. So, you forget it. Buddha used this kind of karma and reward or recompense of karma, as a upaya, tactful means. When you, borrow some money from others, you must pay it up, just like that. Of course, that people, borrowing, money, not only money, getting some help from others. But they do not care of that. Forget it. Do not do anything, you know. So Buddha, when you do something, you know, you must pay, pay back to the man who did good for you. That, you know, that is not, in Buddhism, it is only upaya. It is not true teaching. Yeah. It was very common Hindu, how to say, Hindu, idea, which was moral, very basic idea of moral law. Moral law. When people do the good deed, conduct, he will get the good reward. It looks right, but it is not always correct. You know? So, but that's it is educational word. When we teach the little children, we can use this kind of teaching. When you do, people will be glad and helping you back, like that. It is good. But, sometimes people do not, reward back. The causation, is, that causation is not like that. Buddhist causation is not, different times. Cause comes first, then effect comes later. That is not a Buddhist causation. Western causation is realistic causation, we call. So, that the cause, causes comes first, or sometimes one cause comes first, and all effect come from the cause. Then cause is comes first before the effect. All effect come out from the causes. Then effect is always after the causes. But that is not a Buddhist causation. Okay, do you have any question?
What's the purpose of life?
Purpose of life? How do you think? I'd like to know your idea first. Yeah, do you think, do you have any purpose in your life? Any purpose?
Not sure.
I'm not sure too. I'm not sure too. I wanted to know, and that I questioned, the many times, but I couldn't find it, any purpose. I don't know what the purpose is. Why you eat, every day?
Why?
Why do you eat, every day?
Habit.
Do you have appetite, so eat it? Or in order to work, or in order to live, continue to live, or to do something, to work something? We have 100,000 of purpose in one conduct.
Psychologists call them instincts.
Yeah. So that is, yeah. Human wish to, derive something.
Are instincts illusions?
Instinct, I don't know. That's the big problem. What is instinct? The appetite is instinct. And sleeping is instinct. Rest is instinct. Rest. And we have many other desires. Instinct.
Desires and instincts are different.
Okay. How about sexual?
You're born with an instinct.
Okay. How about the sexual? Sexual, desire. Is that not instinct?
It's desire and instincts together.
The sexual is instinct of the species. Yeah. That is the instinct. Some the how say psychologist counted the sexual desire is instinct. That is that's necessary. It is a natural desire. It is very necessary for the species preservation. Preserve. Just like self-preservation and species preservation and self-enlargement. Those three are most obvious instinct. Now, some, that's psychologist, theorized. But it is not so important, Yeah. It is only theory. Someone's understanding. Yeah. But, instinct, that is, big problem. Is that human belongs to human beings?
No, there are human instincts and other instincts. Plants and animals have instincts.
Yeah. So the instinct belongs to living creatures, and instinct, are different from living creature, or same thing, same to the living creature, or part of the living creature.
It's a response made by the living creature.
Uh-huh.
A behavior made by
Yeah, behavior. That is a behavior. Yeah. So the that living creature existed first. Then that instinct come from the living creature. then you have, logical, absurdity. Because,
In English, we have a word called synergy,
uh-huh,
which means that many things put together to form one thing
yeah,
is more than the single things.
yeah,
So an arm over there, an arm over there, a leg over there, a leg over there.
okay,
Put them all together in one certain form. You have a human body in a
yeah,
certain form. It has a life to it.
yeah, that is,
Synergy. That's more than just an arm, a leg, a finger.
okay. In the other words, this flower, that it has many attributes, color, matter, characteristics, and activities, values, beauties, like that. And those attributes, that make up one flower.
Well, you're mixing different things. See, you're mixing judgment of volition in there with form.
That there is a flower before the nature or after the nature, together at the same time. It must, nature and flower are the same thing. No, that is, this is a big discussion in the Buddhism too. Okay, we have already discussed.
You can say that flower is an aggregate.
Yeah.
But if it's an aggregate in one certain way, it has life. So that's a difference right there.
It has a life in it?
Is life illusion?
Yeah, life is, what is life? Is in the flower or outside of flower? Like, ego, everybody has an ego, self. In Buddhism, there is no self, it's anywhere.
Well, that's what I'm asking. It's synergy.
Yeah.
See, it's an aggregate of many things. But
Yeah.
it's an aggregate in a certain way.
Yeah, so,
Then there's something else there called life.
we have, this flower has many aggregate, okay, aggregate. So it's, how to say, those aggregate, how to say, concomitant, together, concomitant together, and make a flower. We call it flower. We call it flower. Flower is a human concept. It is not the actual beings. When we have a picture of flower in our mind, so we call it flower. That our understanding of flower is not this flower. So I can bring my flower home, okay? But this flower, it cannot come into my brain. So it is quite a different flower, So I cannot understand this flower. I don't know how much, attribute or nature or characteristics and power is in it. People judge, that, oh, it has a beauty, But the beauty belongs to me, not the flower. Color is not, flower side. This flower has no color, no substance, no characteristics, no attribute. It is empty. So we call it temporarily the flower. But that flower comes from here. Everybody has a picture of this flower. Then that is when we say this is, but really this is. In my understanding, I understand that this is flower. I call it flower. That is my idea, my concept. I don't know. It is a power of mind.
What's the purpose of the mind?
Eh?
What is the purpose of the mind?
Purpose is, you know,
Illusions that
yeah.
there's no way out of according to this. There's no path and no attainment.
Yeah, that the
Why bother
purpose,
in the first place?
yeah, you know, we don't know purpose of this flower. You know, we cannot ask the flower. When you ask the flower, what is your purpose, you know, it say nothing. So we cannot know, you know. Only I make a purpose of this flower in my judgment. That is my judgment, not the judgment of the flower. You know, everything is a human creation. You know, we have a creative power. You know, that is a judgment, you know, understanding. That is human, ability. You know. That's why we put, we create the beauty in this flower. But that is my, valuation, my power. So I say, oh, this is a very wonderful, valuable flower. You know? We can see it, we can say it, we can think it. You know? That is, human mind. So before we ask the, purpose of this flower, we must ask our own mind, what is the purpose of your understanding? Yeah. That is, more important. Everything is in my mind, in our mind, own mind. Mind is very powerful. We can create anything, existence, non-existence, negation, or affirmation. That is own creation, own mental power. There is no, power anywhere. Because there is no beauty anywhere. There is no value anywhere. Unless we find it. So finding, that is creation. That is human mental power. That is very, very strong power. Yeah. So our, we are quite, we are become a free mind, enlightenment, and nirvana. That is, our, the state of our mental, of our mind. We call mental state. Nirvana is our mental state. Enlightenment is our mental state. Not other, things. There is no nirvana anywhere, but in our mind, in our judgment, we can see, we can find out, this kind of, tranquil realms, anywhere, everywhere. That is our mental power. That is Buddha mind, we say. Buddha mind. We have, each of us have a Buddha mind, Buddha nature. Yeah. And this flower and I are not different. When I'm not here, this flower does not exist here. This flower does not exist here, I'm not here. That means, we are relative existence. Knower and known are, relative. There is no knower without a known. There is no known without a knower. Like that. Okay, any last question, please? Do we have anyone? Anything? Okay, I like to know what subject you are interested in. I have many the topics, but what topics is suitable for you? I don't know. If you tell me, I can prepare next time. Prepare it. Some people wish to know nirvana. Some people wish to know enlightenment, wisdom, and compassion, and upaya. And we have many other important topics. How do you think? Yes, sir.
I would like to explore how to eliminate the separation between the knower and the known, the observer and the observed.
Yeah.
I'd like to understand how I can become you and you me in my mind and everyone here.
Yeah.
He was talking of synergy. Now that seems the ultimate synergy.
Yeah.
If we take all these parts and put them together, what then would we have that would be of such power?
You mean, we have a,
Eliminating separateness.
I see. We have a theory like this, that individual, there is no individual beings in the whole universe. Everything are related to each other and making a totality, So one is everything. Everything is one. Each one is universal and eternal. That is a very central philosophy of Avatamsaka Sutra. This is very good, for the people, especially scientists, like this sutra, the idea, the theory of field, field, yeah. This is very good. Yeah, I like to, talk this kind of Dharma-Datsu theory. Dharma is each individual. Has a Datsu is own, universe. There is, each small, individual is, the universal totality. Just like a Buddha himself is only person, one human being. But after his enlightenment, he become the universal, existence, and also eternal existence. We are individual, very small, and very, tiny existence. But this the small, tiny existence is universal and eternal. Yeah, this is very good to know. How about that? Okay. Okay, I think that these are complicated, but the people like it. No? I promise, next time I will explain this. Thank you very much.